Welcome into Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery here on Locked On Sports Atlanta. Today on the show, do the Braves have to do anything? A fresh start for Collins. And are the Falcons done? It's all next. It's Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked On Sports Atlanta.
This is Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta. And it starts now.
Hitting Hard is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We ask you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Get the latest episodes of Hitting Hard as soon as they become available. Also, check us out on the SiriusXM app and give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. So as we head through the month of July and we head toward the trade deadline, and the All-Star game is wrapped up now, and we're in the second half of the de facto second half of the season. The Braves have played 89 games thus far. Do the Braves have to do anything? A month or 6 weeks ago, it was, I don't want to say panic mode, but it was, we got to fix the bullpen, and we got to add more starters, and we got to add a left fielder, and blah, 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 blah. Now you look as the dust has settled and things have just kind of calmed down. You look at where the Braves are now, right? We've talked about the division's over. I mean, the Marlins, Phillies, and Mutts are not overtaking the Braves. I don't care what scenario you try to spin to me. There's no scenario where the Braves lose this division. You mean tell me the Braves all of a sudden going to go on a 120 kind of streak? No, of course not. Again, we've talked about all the reasons why, but there's no scenario where there is another team to win the division. So now it becomes, okay, do we have enough in the playoffs? Do we have enough to, win the World Series or this, that, and the other? All right. So let's take the lineup, for instance. Okay. Yeah. I mean, could you add a right-handed bat to the lineup to kind of spell Eddie Rosario as you need to? Sure. But look at the season Eddie Rosario is having at the All-Star break. I mean, it's been a really nice bounce-back year. 14 homers, 43 RBI. He's hitting a respectable 254, scored 37 runs, and believe it or not, he's made some nice plays out in the outfield. So, again, he's held his own. Again, if you want, a bat or want to use some of the guys that you already have off your bench, all right, I can buy into all that, but I mean, that's luxury stuff, okay? Now the big one, the rotation. Oh, man, the Braves got all these guys out and this and that and the other. Fried's out, Wright's out, Anderson's done for the okay. Soroka's back down the minors. Okay. Well, now you look, all right, now that we've kind of settled down with everything, you have 3 regular starters. So 2 of them have been all-stars. 2 of them are all-stars, okay? Max Fried is a former all-star, right? Charlie Morton's a former all-star. So, again, you got 2 current all-stars. You got Charlie Morton. All 3 of those guys have been really, they've been, I don't want to say outstanding, but they've pitched really well. Morton's had a really nice bounce back year. Elder's obviously been terrific. He's an all-star. And Strider's unhittable. So we got that 3. Well, now all of a sudden, Max Fried is making a, comeback start, and it looks like he's going to be back sooner than later. Don't know the status of Kyle Wright, but again, Michael Soroka is back up. Okay. Feels like he's going to try to get a chance to stay. But worst case scenario is if you get Max Fried up and in a part of the regular rotation, which, again, once he gets in the rotation, barring an injury, he's not going out of the rotation. So now you only really have to fill one spot, whether it's Soroka or you can use some of your rookies and stuff like that. And kind of not overwork a 5th guy, a Soroka or some of your rookies, Schuster or Dodd or whatever. So now all of a sudden you're like, oh, okay, now we got first world problems. Oh, yeah, I've got 2 all-star starters, and I'm about to add the best left-hander in baseball to my rotation. Well, that's like a free agent pickup just all by itself because Fried's only made, 5 or 6 starts for the entire year, and it's a lefty to kind of break up all the right-handers that we've had all season long pitching. So again, now all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, now we got first world problems from starting pitching. Now we've got all these guys that, maybe we don't need to make a move. So I don't think the Braves are going to have to give up assets to get a starting pitcher. Now, as far as the bullpen goes, look, will the Braves make a move to grab another reliever? Probably. But go look at the numbers as far as the Braves bullpen. They're one of the best bullpens in ERA and, whip and all these other metrics, all the sabermetric, metrosexual analytical numbers that people put out there. They've been one of the best bullpens in Major League Baseball. So it doesn't feel like that, oh my gosh, we got 2 or 3 wink links. I mean, again, has Minter pitched great this year? No, but he's been able to be, competent. Chavez has been really good. I mean, again, McHugh, I mean, okay. I mean, they got guys that, have taken over. It doesn't feel like that you have to go out there and make some big, bold move to improve the bullpen. I'm looking at some of these names that are being bantied about. I mean, they're all, fish heads and rice, right? Not going to cost you anything. They're either guys that teams want to move on because they're not going to pay them, or teams that are just looking to take a veteran and get a cheap prospect back and roll the dice and see if that guy can be, part of something long-term or part of something special. So when I look at this Braves team, they by and large can just sit back with their arms crossed, kick back in a Barca lounger, and realize that we don't really have to do anything. Alex Anthopoulos has built this team to where I don't think there's really any moves that they have to make. There's no glaring weakness on this team. We came into the year saying, okay, well, is left field going to be a problem? How good's our bullpen going to be? And then all of a sudden it became starting pitching. Anderson's out for the year. Kyle Wright and Max Fried are out for 60 days. And, Michael Soroka's not quite ready to come back, and, on and on and on and on and on. Now, all of a sudden, I'm not saying that these weaknesses have turned into complete strengths, but okay, left field's been pretty competent. Starting pitching got through the worst of it, and, they took all the bumps and bruises and things like that. And now you're in pretty good shape. And again, you got great performances out of Strider and Elder, and your bullpen has been really good. I mean, statistically, they've been really good. And say what you want about Iglesias. I mean, I talked to Heath Bell the other night on my radio show. Look, again, closers are going to have their ups and downs. Iglesias is no different than Kenley Jansen or Will Smith. And guess what those guys have done? They've been outstanding. They were all outstanding. At the end of the year, for their blips and bloops and things like that, they were outstanding. So, no, at this point, I don't really think that there's a scenario where the Braves have to do anything. Will they do something? Probably, because Alex Anthopoulos is an aggressive GM, right? That he's a guy always, he's kind of in that Bill Parcells mode. Bill Parcells was, if I can improve the 53rd man on my roster, I'll improve the 53rd man on my roster. Alex Anthopoulos is like that. If I can improve my back end bullpen where I need a long innings guy just in case, I'll improve that. So I again, but to think that the Braves, again, 6-8 weeks ago, we were looking at this saying, oh my gosh, we got to go out and get some starting pitching and this and that. And, I don't want to say, again, like I said, it's not panic mode, but it was a situation where it felt like all of these things were starting to pile up for the Braves. And there were injuries to the starting lineup and, all these other things and the pitching lineup and just this and that and what have you. And meanwhile, the Braves are just steadily, just won games, taking control of the division. So the fact is that, again, the Braves don't have to really do anything. If the Braves stood pat and just rolled this roster right out there into the playoffs, they're still probably, again, I don't know what Vegas says, as far as that goes, but why would they not be the betting odds to win the World Series right now? With that lineup and those starters and their bullpen is competent enough and they got a really good closer. Again, why would they not be the favorites to win the World Series at this point? They've got everything that they need. Again, it's an abundance of riches. They've built this thing the right way. They've gotten really good performances out of the guys that they've had to count on, where maybe we didn't think we'd have to count on some guys as much, but they've gotten really good performances out of those guys. So, no, I don't think the Braves have to do anything. This is a time where the Braves, if they wanted to, could sit back, lounge around in a Barca lounger, pet their Cocker Spaniel and go on their merry way and not have to do anything. And that's a relief. And that's a testament to how good the scouting department, Alex Anthopoulos, player development, all of that has been for this Braves team. All right, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. And as you know, FanDuel is America's #1 sports book. And as we're heading into the second half of MLB season, you can have a chance to bet on MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 on FanDuel, and you can land $200 in bonus bets, whether you win or whether you lose. It's $200 you can spend betting on everything from money lines to over-unders to who you think is going to hit the first home run. FanDuel is a safe, secure, super easy-to-use app. And, of course, again, you go to FanDuel.com/LockedOn. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn, LOCKEDON, and get in on the action at FanDuel, where you can get $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's the great part about it. And even more importantly, you get paid instantly from FanDuel. That's the best part of all of this. So FanDuel.com/LockedOn, FanDuel.com/LOCKEDON. FanDuel is the official partner of Major League Baseball. So I thought it was interesting what John Collins had to say in his introductory press conference, which I believe was last Friday for him. And he talked about the idea of, this is a quote from him. Quote, "It's a big stress relief. Obviously, my name has been in a lot of rumors and whatnot, and it hasn't been easy. So it's just been good to finally get it over with and obviously start anew in Utah. I'm really not trying to think about it too much and just go for it and be the best player I can. I feel like I can be really successful here." Now, it is interesting that, and again, it's almost been a running joke in a lot of ways, is that, John Collins is, scheduled to be traded again. When I was at the Hawks draft party, not this, we were at the draft party this couple months ago here, or whatever, month ago, whatever like that. But in 2022, I was at the Hawks draft party, and that was at some event arena and all this good kind of stuff. And there was so much speculation talking to people about, Collins is going to get traded tonight. And Zach Klein and all these other media heads, he's getting traded tonight. He's getting traded. And then nothing happened. Then we rolled through the trade deadline. Nothing happened. And we've heard this for years and years and years. And you figure it's got to grind on a guy when the team that drafted you and the organization that gave you a $125 million contract and the organization that believes in you. And at one point, he was, our second best player on the roster. The fact of, okay, they want to move on from you and get rid of you had to be weighing on his mind. And I expect, listen, I will tell you, I think John Collins is going to have a big season. I don't know what their plan is in Utah. I'm going to talk to one of the beat reporters at some point, and I'll get some information, about it. But I don't know what their plan is for John Collins. I don't really cover Utah basketball, but it just feels like that there's been a big burden lifted off his shoulders. And look, I'll say it this way, okay? I'll say the thing that maybe isn't popular to be said, but maybe part of this is getting away from Trae Young and that dynamic. Not just the Hawks and things like that, maybe the Trae Young dynamic. Did they mesh as well as what we would have hoped for? Probably not. But again, they were kind of linked and they were moving forward and they were going to be the building blocks of this organization. And now finally, after, 5,000 rumors, think about how many guys have been rumored in trades for John Collins. Half the league has been rumored to be traded for John Collins, right? Like every time the trade deadline or the offseason or this or that for the last really 3-4 years, it's been one rumor after another. I said half the league has been involved in some kind of trade rumor that was, John Collins related out there. And Collins went on to say that, quote, I understand people being used to me playing one way and obviously not playing up to the standards that are expected. I look at myself and I'm my own biggest critic as well. So it's definitely on me to just get back into the gym and really just tighten my game up. And he said, he said that there's always room to get better. Never going to be 100% until I stop playing the game. And he said, "quote I never felt like I've woken up and lost the way or knowledge of how to play the game of basketball. Once I get in the court and just play, I really feel like all the noise will be quiet." And like I said, I think that he's going to have a big year in Utah. But just it was interesting when he talked about Nate McMillan in the off, when that move was made. He was one of the guys that stood in front of the media and talked about, well, maybe it was a message for, a younger group of guys, or sorry, a more veteran group of guys, and that they were a young team and all this. Okay. I mean, again, I don't really believe all of that stuff, but whatever. But now he's in Utah, and again, I expect him to have a big year. I don't know if he's going to become that 20-10 player that he was in his first few years with the Atlanta Hawks, but maybe just getting away, and we talk about fresh starts and change of scenery and all these other things that go along with it. Maybe that's what he needs, out there. Maybe this is going to be the best thing for him. And again, this was not about, I'd say it this way, but again, this was not about getting value in return, right? They got Rudy Gay back and he's already been shipped off, right? We told you, we told you on the show that he wasn't going to be around. Rudy Gay was never going to be here. Those are just parts. The main thing for the Hawks, hate to say it this way, but was getting under the luxury tax. And by the way, that's every move the Hawks have made. Okay. The Usman Garuba and Ty Washington and Patty Mills, you can have all those guys. No, not one of those guys makes the Hawks roster better. And now they're all gone, other than Patty Mills is still around, who got traded 3 times in 10 days. You tell I'm frustrated about what the Hawks have done this offseason. But it was a salary dump. I mean, let's call it what it is. With John Collins, it was a salary dump. That they wanted to move under the luxury tax. They didn't want to be in it. And by the way, a lot of teams do not want to be in the luxury tax. The way the new CBA is set up, it's not necessarily a good thing to be in the luxury tax. And once you start to get into it, it's hard to get out of unless you just dump salary. And that's what the Hawks did here. So look, good for John Collins. Again, I'll keep up with what he's doing in Utah. I'll probably talk to some of the beat writers and, those kinds of people that follow him on an everyday basis. I won't necessarily keep up with him every day, but it will be interesting to see that if he does kind of have that bounce back kind of breakout season where, for whatever reason, again, he had, critiques about Trae Young and the offense running through him. Maybe now things will be different in Utah. Maybe now he's got that fresh start, and maybe now he can find his way to where he gets back to being the player that we thought he could be. He gets back to that 20-12 kind of, or 20-10, I should say, kind of mark. We'll see if he can get back to all of that. Aren't many of those guys running around in the league, and Collins at one time was one of them. So good luck to him. It'll be interesting to watch what he does in Utah, and I'll be keeping up with all of it. All right, as you go in and make Hittin' Hard your first listen, be sure to leave us a comment in whatever podcast platform that you're listening on that you are an everyday listener to the program. So we like to call them our everydayers, as we say. So we do thank you so much for being a part of our growing community and being on this journey and this ride with us here over really not even quite a year and a half just yet. So April of last year is when we cranked up. So we thank you so much. And we continue to, want to hear from you as far as being an everyday listener 5 days a week into the program. So are the Falcons done? Training camp is 2 weeks away, 2 weeks away from today. Training camp's 2 weeks away from today. And it's officially football season in 2 weeks, right? Because now we're in training camp, preseason. It'll come real quick, right? 3 preseason games. It'll come quick. Regular season will be here, and beat by the boot before you know it. We're in the NFL regular season. Now the Falcons have somewhere in that 9, 10, $10.5 million range of available funds to spend. Are they done? Again, there's, nitpicking that you can always do on an NFL roster. Again, I brought up Bill Parcells. You can improve the 53rd man on your roster. You improve the 53rd man on your roster. Okay. But I'll still go back to what I keep saying. Okay. And I know y'all don't want to hear this, but I'm going to beat that drum until I see it in living color change. Okay. You can't have too many pass rushers. And you've got Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, and Yannick Ngakoue that are sitting out there in the open market. Am I relying on those guys to be dominant? No. But again, my fear is the idea of getting the core. There again, a lot of y'all are counting on a lot of wishful thinking, what ifs, hopeful thinking, the Caden Ellises, the Arnold Ebiketis. And look, I'm right there with you. I mean, again, I think Ebiketie has to be the breakout player, or we're not going to get where we need to be. You can tell me about what our defensive backfield is and our $14 million safeties. If you can't get home on the pass rush, it ain't going to matter. It ain't going to matter. So many of y'all think that, you can't understand the reason why we don't win in this league. In a league that is built to be bad one year, great the next year. Not just mediocre one year and a little above mediocre. No, stink up the joint like the Jacksonville Jaguars, and next year win your division. When you have Urban Meyer and all the stinkiness came along with that, then next year you win your division. That again, we can't understand why we don't win enough of these games. Well, it's salary cap. Come on, folks. Is that really what you think? Is that really where you think? Again, we don't influence the game on our defensive line of scrimmage. And there's no amount of guys that I'll feel comfortable with that, again, as is, I would add one of those guys in a heartbeat. I don't care what you tell me. One of those three guys is a Falcon. I'm all in. I'm in. I don't care if they play 20%, 40%, 60% of the snaps. I don't care how many games I don't care. Just having those guys on our football roster that their job is to go after quarterbacks, Ngakoue or Houston or Melvin Ingram, just one of those three guys. Why not? Again, they've got $9 or $10 million. You're not going to spend $9 or $10 million on one of those guys. Well, there's a reason why they're sitting out there. Yeah, because some folks think they probably cost too much money, or you wait around because you go wishful thinking into, well, I've got this, I got my second year guy that's, making $12 and he's going to, break out and all this kind of stuff. And then you look and say, well, you know what, maybe I got to add a veteran, into that mix. Or, the good franchises, they have all those guys. The 49ers, they had one of the best pass rushes, in the NFL in the last decade, and they just went out and signed Javon Hargrave and said, we'll give him, $80 million or whatever like that. They already did all their work. They don't have to add any more guys. They got too many guys. They look and say, man, we got too many guys that rush the quarterback. You ever hear Nick Sirianni say that in a press conference? We got just too many guys that sack the quarterback. I don't think he's ever said that. I don't know. I didn't see all those press conferences, but I'm guessing he didn't say, boy, we just got too many guys that sack the quarterback. You again, my buddy D-Led talks about you can't have too many corners. Guess what? In today's NFL, you can't have too many guys that sack the quarterback. Can't have too many of those guys. So why not? Again, if you got to give them $4, $5, $6 million, who cares? Put them on a one-year contract. Show me, build in all kinds of incentives and stuff like that. You've got the funds. You don't need to roll the money over. You're going to be in good cap shape even going into next year. You still don't pay your quarterback all that much money. And you got Pitts and London on, rookie contracts. The one guy you're going to have to fork some money over to is going to be A.J. Terrell. But you've got McGarry and you got Lindstrom signed up and Jake Matthews is here, right? Like you got most of your guys that are in pretty good shape financially as far as they're signed up, ready to go. AJ is going to be the big one. It's going to cost you a lot of money to keep AJ Terrell. That's fine. I think he's worth it. I think he's he's going to approach a $20 million cornerback. I know a lot of people don't want to hear that, but again, with the NFL, it's never about what you deserve. It's about who's next. Same with quarterbacks. Does Derek Carr deserve to be a $40 million quarterback when the Raiders franchise is in no better shape than it was a decade ago than when he got there? Probably even worse. No, of course not. It's the NFL. That's the game that's played in the NFL. Salaries go up, players make more money, and if you're the next available hot guy, you get all the money. So outside of AJ Terrell, we got all these guys that are, vagabonds that are just on 1-2 year deals or short deals, stuff like that. But the main core of our team is signed up. Why not give some money to another pass rusher? Why not bring a guy in? Like I said, I don't care if he plays 20, 40, 60, 80, 600% of the snaps. I don't care. I still don't feel like I've got that fire breather that's coming off the edge. I still don't feel like I've got that fire breather that's going to get after the quarterback and put him on the ground on a consistent basis. Do we have guys like, again, Arnold Ebiketie? Can he be that guy? Hopefully, right? And I use that word, hopefully. Hopefully he can be that guy, but we haven't seen it yet. We saw flashes and bits and pieces and blips and bloops and stuff like that, but it's no consistency to it. And that's the thing. Nobody has shown that they consistently can get after the quarterback for I don't know how many years, really since Vic Beasley's Super Bowl year when it was, getting after the quarterback and leading the league in sacks. So again, I don't know if they're done. I don't know if they're looking at, kind of veteran, but why not add one of those three guys as a pass rusher? Why not add one of those three guys? Figure out a way to use him. I'm sure Ryan Nielsen can come up with something how to use a guy like that. And let's just add more pass rush. Pass rush, pass rush, pass rush, pass rush. Well, it's going to be better, okay? Again, let's add more. You know what? If you think it's good enough, add more, right? If you think you can get to 38 sacks, get somebody to 45, right? That's what you do in today's NFL. You have to sack the quarterback. I think we're going to be better at it, but I'm not convinced that, again, we are going to get to the kinds of numbers that make you a consistent playoff team or what playoff defenses, tend to do or what your Super Bowl participant defenses tend to do. All right, well, thank you so much for making Hittin' Hard your first listen. Be sure to go in and leave us a comment on whatever podcast platform that you listen on. Let us know that you're an everyday listener to the program. So we thank you so much for being a part of our community, listening in 5 days a week. Let us know that you're an everydayer, as we like to call them. So we thank you for your participation in all of this. And obviously, you can subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast and get the latest episodes of Hittin' Hard as soon as they become available. Check us out on the Sirius XM app as well. Give me a follow on my personal Twitter page at JMCH316. Back with you tomorrow. This has been Hittin' Hard with Jon Chuckery, Locked on Sports Atlanta.